Chapter 11, What Was Lost? The Swordless Swordsman. The horizon was pale, and only the first rays of the sun peered through the mountains. I walked slowly while pulling at the reins of my horse. On the saddle were Pyper and Kino. Kino had his arms hanging to his sides, and his head bobbed forward with each step that the horse made. Pyper's eyes were clouded, and her eyelids were almost closed. She looked tired, but her lips were still set on a firm line. "We need to camp," I said. Pyper glanced at me, but she did not slow the horse down. "Come on, chum," I said. "Follow me." Pyper did not object, and it seemed to me that she was already asleep but was too proud to admit that she needed the rest. I was also tired and wanted to rest, although I have to admit that I would have continued on the journey instead if I had my way. Lately, only the forest seemed friendly. I pulled the horse's rein and steered it towards a huge tree. Upon arriving at what seemed like a good hiding place, I stopped. I reached towards Kino and almost drew my hand back. He was still burning up. "Help me untie him," I said. Pyper stared at me, and her head dropped forward before she managed to snatch it back up again. She blinked several times, and I had to laugh. "Go get some sleep," I told her. Pyper shook her head. "No. I'm not sleepy," she said. She helped me with the knots, and when the rope was loose, I pulled Kino towards me and carried him to safety. Pyper dismounted and secured the horse's reins. Then she gathered hay and leaves and put them together to create a makeshift bed. "This should be comfortable enough," she said. I put Kino down and took a scarf from my pack. I poured water onto it to make it cold and put it on his forehead. This would make some of the heat go away. Kino winced as I accidentally grazed the wound under his eye. The swelling had subsided. The bruise had darkened and was now healing, but I was afraid the scar might be there to stay. Pyper dropped beside Kino and was sleeping in an instant. Poor kid, I thought, she must be so tired. I plopped down with my back against the two of them and wondered if anybody would be able to find us here. I yawned. God, I'm sleepy. But I can't sleep yet. When Pyper wakes up, that is the time that I should have my own nap. And then, we could travel for a few miles before we set camp again. I did not know where we should be going, but I knew it could not be a mare. It could not be Canela either, and most certainly not the ghost town. Loondu was also off my list. So, where? I thought it over and considered Karasthea. And then all loose thoughts escaped me as I fell asleep without meaning to.
Mia Passup. As Master Damien had promised, our journey was a fast one. "My lady," Master Damien said, "this is as far as we can take you. The river breaks into a fall a mile from here." "What is this place?" "The north of Amare. It's called Sinista." "And what of its people?" I asked. "There's no need to worry, my lady. Only beasts inhabit this area." I choked. "No need to worry because beasts inhabit this area? As opposed to what?" He looked at me as though what I had asked was irrelevant. "People are more dangerous than beasts. Beasts don't disguise themselves. People do." I studied the surroundings. It did not look much different from Loondu. Several men dived into the river to push the boat to the bank. Huge rocks tied to ropes were dropped to the water to anchor the boat. The children moved towards me, riding the horses. To my right, a plank was being arranged so that the horses could pass. Mayo went first, followed by my twins. Where was Quila? I looked back at Master Damien. "Thank you for providing us with a safe passage," I said. "It is an honor, my lady," he said, bowing to me. "I am not a lady, Master Damien," I said. I must have told him that 100 times, and yet he still kept on referring to me as one. "A woman who acts like a lady deserves to be called a lady," he said, grinning. I smiled back and turned to go. The gold coins had been paid to him, and our business with him was settled. "Wait," he said. He studied me with sharp eyes. "What you have lost will be found, but what he finds, he will lose again." "Pardon me," I said. "It is my gift to you, my lady. An assurance that you will find what you're looking for." Are you a seer? I asked. He chuckled and shook his head. I don't know. I never understood my power. I thought I was a poet, but when things I said started happening, I knew that my power was different. I look at people, and words will begin to form inside my head. He glanced at the twins. I see them and find the words. I don't understand them, but maybe this will make more sense to you. He paused. You cannot touch the heart of the hands that gave you life. He laughed to himself. It is an odd thing. I watched the twins and could not make out what Master Damien said could possibly mean. And the other two? I asked, curious. He squinted. They stand too close. I don't know which one is for whom. The heart is blemished, but the good always wins. He frowned, and his lips trembled. Frozen. That's only one sentence. What's the other one? I asked. Frozen. That's the only word that came to my mind, he said, confused. This has not happened before, but that's the only thing I can say. There was a loud gasp from behind Master Damien, and I saw Quila's blonde locks. Quila. I said. Be fast. We're leaving already. What are you still doing on the deck? I'm sorry, Mistress Lamare, Master Damien, she said, bowing to both of us. But your words gave me the chills, she said to Master Damien. Don't repeat what you heard here to anyone, all right? I said. Quila nodded in high speed before scrambling to go down the deck. She's a good child, Master Damien said. Yes. I think so too, I said. I turned around to face Master Damien, wishing that there were other things he could tell me. But for now, I will take his words as warnings. May the moons guide your path, he said. And the moons bring forth more blessings for the kindness of your heart, I returned. He urged his men to come back to the boat. I received something for the passage I offered. It wasn't kindness, he said. When I reached the land, I watched for a while as the boat began its journey to Canella. Mayo looked concerned. His gaze swept all around us. I don't like this place at all, he said. Quila was also twisting in her saddle. Me too. I feel like there are eyes staring at me. Come on, Mama. Let's go. We better start traveling while there's still light, Goemi said. I nodded and mounted the horse. Quila rode beside me, looking concerned. What did Master Damien mean? What were those he said? She asked. It's an adult conversation. Whatever you heard, forget about it, I said curtly. Then I kicked at the horse to avoid any more of her questions.
Kino Amurk. I remembered being lifted from my bed with strong arms. There were hushed voices. The angels and a man's voices. Then my head bumped against the back of a man as he ran downstairs towards a gathering. He said something, and then everybody got up as though he had announced that there was a war being fought outside. But I did not understand any of what happened. I remembered having my wrists gripped tightly. I opened my eyes and could not see myself. So, I really died, I thought. The Emperor lost because he could no longer harm me. I started laughing softly until a voice from beside me asked me to stop laughing. So, I did. And then there was nothing anymore. Everything was hazy in my head, as though I was dreaming. Then, the images in my head vanished as I woke up with a jolt and squinted at the blinding light above me. My clothes were drenched. Your fever has gone down, but you're still hot, someone said. I could only make out the golden hair of a boy as my vision adjusted to the brightness of the day. I squinted until the image became more vivid, and I found myself gaping at Arden. Are you feeling better, chum? He asked. From beside me, someone knelt and tugged at my hand. Hey, she said. I squinted again until a girl's face materialized, and my heart swelled upon recognizing who it was. Pyper, I said, smiling slowly. You found me. She nodded, eyes watering. You're going to be all right, she said. I'm dizzy, I said. Arden pulled at my hands, and Pyper pushed at my back. It's because you have not moved for a while. Your butt must hurt, Arden said. I laughed weakly. Arden pulled me until I was standing up. Come on, chum. Walk, he said. Arden removed his arms around me, and I swayed. Pyper grabbed my waist. Arden! She yelled. How inconsiderate. Arden looked at her innocently as though he did not know why she was chastising him. It's all right, I said. I think I can walk. But when I stepped forward, my left leg started to throb, and it drove me to wakefulness. I blinked several times and gazed down at my bandaged leg. Then everything came back to me. The arrow that hit my leg. The days I spent tied to a horse. The soldier who rode beside me talked to me and urged me to write about my feelings. I need a cane, I said. Here, Arden said and handed me a stick. This will help. I took it and started to walk around. My leg hurt with every step that I made, but I had to start moving, or else my muscles would be like jelly. I was walking around with the stick for a cane when Arden left, and by the time he came back, I felt like I had regained my full mobility even though my left leg still throbbed every time I stood with my full weight on it. Arden was holding a rabbit. Pyper helped roast it, and in a few minutes, my mouth watered as I anticipated the taste of a succulent meal. My stomach rumbled in hunger, reminding me that I had not eaten anything since I woke up. I did not have to wait for long. Before I knew it, Arden was handing me my share of the meal. We ate together, facing each other. Arden frowned. We have to leave this place sooner. There's hardly anything to eat. This rabbit was all I was able to catch, he said with a note of deep concern. Maybe you've gone soft, Pyper teased. I don't think so, chum, Arden said. I'm telling you, something's wrong with this place. I shivered and looked around. Maybe I was too sick to feel anything, but the moment I turned around and listened to the eerie sounds of the forest, the hair on my neck stood on end. Arden is right. There's something wrong with this place. I was thankful for the day. It was better than the other days. Still average, but better in many ways. For one, I was back with my friends, even if I did not know what we were going to do next. I told Pyper and Arden about the sniffler and how the general killed him. It hurts to think about it. And I panicked. Where's Mayo? I asked Pyper. How could I have forgotten about him? Then without waiting for an answer, I turned to Arden, and your companions? They're probably looking for us. It was Pyper who answered. When we came after you, Arden and I left Mayo behind. We needed him to notify everyone where we're going so that someone else can come after us and help. She paused. We saw what happened to the sniffler. Her eyes had gone soft as they studied me. Maybe Mayo and everyone else will find us soon. And if they don't? I asked. Pyper shook her head. I don't know, but something tells me that Mayo and the others will find us. I mean, there are 5 of them looking for us, and they all know that we're headed to Canella. The world may be big, but if we're all going to the same place, we'll chance upon each other. 5? I asked. What? You said there's 5 of them, I said. There's the twins, and Quila and Mayo. I never saw her either, but Arden said that the twins' mother is also traveling with them, Pyper said. Well, I didn't see her, I said. Arden chuckled. Don't worry, chum. I hardly saw her either. She is kept inside a room by Miro, he said. Why would he do that? Extremely possessive? That's not sane, I said. Nobody said Miro is, Arden said, eyes shining. Nia's very pretty. Arg. At a time like this, Arden? Really? Pyper said, exasperated. Arden only grinned. Believe me, chum. Their mother's going to make you wish your tens of moon turns older so you could court her. I did not believe him. Nobody could ever be quite as beautiful as my mother.
Quila Tash. This place was giving me the creeps. What is this place called again? I asked. Sinista, Nia answered. Keep your voice down. Master Damien said that this place is inhabited by beasts. I shivered. Arden and I had never been here before. I mean, we liked hiding in the woods, but the place had to be near a marketplace too. Otherwise, who would we be performing for? I can feel eyes glaring at me, Mayo said in a hushed voice. Shh, I said. Then I kicked at the horse to make it go faster. Nia's back had become smaller from my view, and I did not want to keep more than a few arms' length distance between us. Not in this place. I jerked when sudden movements rushed behind the bushes in front of us. I pulled at the reins and froze. Nia did too. We tried to be still, but the horses danced as though they could smell something inhuman and horrible. Nia, I called out. Stay calm, she said. When I say go, kick at the horse as hard as you can. Nia glanced back at me once, and I could see that her face had gone pale. I shrieked when from behind the bushes, giant beasts with human eyes jumped and pranced around us. They had hair all over their bodies. Their yellow teeth showed as they snarled at us. There were 3 of them, and they smelled horrible. My bay raised its front legs, almost sending me tumbling down, except that I held on to the reins tightly. Mayo gripped my waist so he would not fall off. Now. Go. Nia shouted. There's no need to run, Goemi shouted. Miro, use your power on them, she urged him. The first beast leapt towards Nia, but before it could reach Nia, its body fell to the ground as though it had lost consciousness in midair. The other 2 beasts pranced around us, oblivious to the danger that Miro brought upon them. I twisted in my saddle so I could keep my eyes on them. The beasts were going around us in circles. Then the creature leapt towards Mayo. Seconds later, the other beast jumped towards Miro. At that moment, the one attacking Mayo fell as though it had died. Miro turned in his saddle to face the other beast, but it was too late. The beast's fangs tore at Miro's clothes and dragged him down. It galloped away, carrying Miro in its fangs. No. Nia shouted and kicked at the horse to go after the beast. I did too. I watched as Miro raised his hands towards the beast to protect himself. The creature dropped Miro to the ground and growled. Then it raised its right paw and hit Miro in the face. He lay there unconscious. I watched in horror as Nia jumped off the horse and raced towards Miro. Goemi was on the horse and climbed down too. From all around me, the trees moved. From the trunks, bodies came off. The bodies had arms and legs like humans. When I looked at their faces, the eyes were similar to ours. Then the bodies which resembled wooden statues ran towards the beast and, in quick movements, kicked the beast. Once, twice, so many times until the beast growled in defeat and retreated. What are they? Mayo asked. Nia ran towards Miro's limp body and clutched him towards her, urging him to wake up. I jumped off the horse almost at the same time that Mayo did. Our feet entangled, and we fell heavily to the ground. Ouch. I said. It's your fault, Mayo grumbled as he stood up and ran towards Nia and Miro. I grunted in annoyance. Nia was still holding Miro, waking him up. The almost wooden statues walked away. Wait. Nia said. They stopped. What are you? She asked. She blushed after saying that. I meant no offense, but I've never seen anyone like you before, she said. The wooden statue smiled if the splitting of its face could be called a smile. We are the tree runners. We protect the trees. Tree runners? It's a long story, my lady, he said in a low voice. And nobody remembers us anymore. For my story, the tree runners protect the secret of the last black egg. I exclaimed in excitement. The tree runner's eyebrows furrowed and he shook his head. There's nothing to tell about the last black egg. But you hold the secret to it. It's a tale, Quila. Goemi said as she moved towards her twin. Looking at Miro, she muttered to herself, he's going to be all right. My eyes were popping from their sockets. Why was it that nobody was interested to know more about the last black egg? If ever the tree runners could tell us where it was hidden, then we could get it, sell it, and form our traveling show. But everyone had dismissed the last black egg story as though it was really just make-believe. Nia stood up and walked towards the tree runner. We were banished, my lady. And so, we hide. We stood staring at the tree runners. I was scared of them, with their dark skin that appeared to be like tree trunks. With their long limbs and sharp faces. If trees were humans, this was how they would look. Why were you banished? The tree runner hesitated before answering. There are many reasons, but I will give you the one that was widely known. The death of the 7 lords. Death of the 7 lords? Dear gods. I wanted to run away from them. But they did seem kind. We were banished, but the emperor couldn't kill us because he knew we were needed in Akean. Nia's gaze softened, and she extended her right hand towards the tree runner. The tree runner hesitated before taking her hand. An honor, my lady, the tree runner said. It is nice to be acknowledged. You shouldn't be hiding. Come with us, Nia urged. The tree runner shook its head. My brothers won't like it. We can't. The death of the 7 lords won't release us from our punishment. Nia looked around at the other tree runners. They had started walking away until, one by one, each had taken their places back in the tree trunks again, blending into them as though they were one with the trees. One day, you will see the light again, and you will walk with us, Nia said. Her voice was regal, and I wondered who she really was. There were moments that she confused me even more, like now. If she had so much as gazed at me, I swear I would have melted as though I was staring straight at a queen. Silly thoughts. Thank you for your kindness, my lady, the tree runner said. No. It is I who should extend my gratitude to you. You saved us. This place is dangerous. Find a way to get out of here fast. We may not be around next time. Hubbubs inhabit the area. Hubbubs? I choked. We encountered hubbubs. I panicked. Nia nodded and walked over to Miro. The tree runner turned around, and when I looked at it, it had vanished. I could not even find the traces of the trees with tree runners on them. Help me carry Miro, Nia said. So we did. And after that, we traveled faster, afraid of having to spend the night in Sinista.
The Swordless Swordsman. Will you check what your powers are now? I asked Kino. Invisibility, he muttered. I don't want to know what the rest are. Then try, I said. We don't know what we'll encounter here. And the gods only know that we may be needing your power soon. Kino frowned. I can't, he added stubbornly. Just try. Quit bothering him, all right? Pyper said to me. You're both being unreasonable. This place gives me the creeps. Don't you feel it? It's like everywhere, eyes are staring at us, I said. I looked around and caught sight of some movements. Don't you feel it? I asked Kino. As an afterthought, I added, why won't you try your power anyway? Don't you remember what happened to Miro? I froze him dead because I copied his stupid power, Kino barked. What if the power I copied was so horrible that I could burn people? Would you forgive me if I reduced you to cinders? I'd be lost in oblivion, so you wouldn't have to worry, I said. He had a point, though. But what are the chances? Surely there must be some way for you to find out what you copied. Stare somewhere else as you try to reveal what you've copied. I mean, who was the last person you were with aside from Pyper and me? I don't know. I was down with a fever. The soldier who carried you while we were invisible, Pyper said. Do you know his power? I don't even know who he was, Kino answered. Pyper's face blanched. He is Reigensayer. Remember that, Kino. He risked his life to save you, she said. Kino looked mortified. I will. But if it's him who rescued me, I did ask him what his power was, he never told me. Fine. I won't bother you any more about it, but in case some monsters approach us, wouldn't it be more horrible to learn what other powers you copied at the exact moment that the monsters are tearing at our throats? Kino did not answer anymore. I hoped his silence meant that he was rationalizing what I said. Maybe it's time to hide, Pyper said. I nodded in agreement, and all three of us vanished. I wondered how Quila was doing without me. It had been weeks, maybe, since I last saw her. More importantly, I wondered how Goemi was. The girl that captured my heart was somewhere I had no idea where, and this thought made me glum. I never liked anybody the way I liked her in the past. When we see each other again, I'll talk to her. Tell her that she and Nia and Miro should travel with Quila and me. And maybe I could convince Pyper, Kino, and Mayo to join us too. What was the plan now? Find Quila. And establish the traveling show I so longed to have. I clutched at the pouch of gold coins hanging on my belt and smiled. Too bad I had left more than half of the gold coins with Quila, or I would already be able to buy a cage and capture a hubbub. Kino would pose a threat to the traveling show, though. If he were with us, then there was always the danger of being discovered and captured by the Emperor. I hope it does not boil down to that. There's a river out here. Kino yelled. I rolled my eyes as I ran to where he was. Pyper was already cleaning herself up, and Kino was drinking like crazy. He was scooping water from the river, and after he finished drinking, he splashed some on his face. The wound below his eye had begun to heal. Clean yourself up, too, I said before kneeling and drinking. Kino stripped off his clothes and joined Pyper. Be careful. The current is quite strong. I lay back on the ground and rested. I covered my face with my hat and did not realize that I had dozed off when drips of water coming from Pyper's hair fell on my body. Wake up, Pyper said, shaking me. I sat up immediately and stared into her eyes. What's wrong? I asked. Kino was getting dressed. There's a boat. We should hide, she said and stood up. I grabbed her hand, pulling at her. Hide the way Nibbins do, I said. Pyper blushed. I turned invisible, and so did the other two. Better we see who they are and what they're doing here. A boat was approaching. It was not huge. Perhaps only 20 square yards. The sails were not hoisted because they were against the wind. On the deck was a huge man who looked to be the captain or the head boatman. Several other men were on the deck. Shouldn't we go with them? Maybe that's the quickest way for us to get out of here, Pyper whispered. I don't know. Anybody could so easily turn us to the Emperor. I don't think we can trust anyone we meet at this point, I said. Let's go. I think we've stayed a long time here. Pyper and Kino nodded, and we left the riverbank towards the gods nowhere. Right then, my plans were limited to what fate may dictate. I did not like it one bit.